Today on Leading with Purpose, I am thrilled to welcome my dear friend and mentor, Rhonda Renee, the visionary founder of Divine Navigation, a system that helps individuals and leaders align with their soul's purpose to create lives and businesses of deeper fulfillment and impact. Rhonda has spent over a decade guiding others. In fact, she'll tell us exactly how long it is. We were just talking about that, to live and lead in alignment with their divine coordinates. We'll talk about that, helping them to unlock their highest potential. And in her chapter in our newest Soulful Leadership anthology, Leaving Behind a Legacy, Rhonda explores the profound ways we can create a lasting impact by embracing our unique purpose and sharing it with the world. I'm so excited to dive into this powerful conversation with you today. Rhonda, hello, how are you?
Hello, my friend. So fun every time we get to play together.
Absolutely. And we have been playing together for quite a long time. It was really
Mm.
a dear friend of ours at a live event where we first connected in person. Getting to meet in person is a rare thing these days, especially for the first time to meet somebody
Right.
in person.
And oh my gosh, that's been 10 years ago, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it
Or
was
maybe not.
2015.
Maybe it's nine. Oh, well, in a few months, it might be.
It will be. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be 10 years. Wow, that's so great.
Absolutely. And the what was bringing us together then was really it was the embodied messengers experience, and it's still kind of really what we're living and talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm curious because we're just going to dive right in. I use some words and terms that people may not be familiar with. It may sound a little jargony, so maybe you can help
Mm.
clean that up and tell us a little bit, well, what is divine navigation and how can people use this to help improve their leadership?
So I hope that it's relatively self-explanatory if you just like take divine and navigation. So divine is that higher part of us, right? The part that isn't from here, but came here. And then obviously navigation is moving through life. So how do you use the higher self, right? Our true divinity that we are here to embody to navigate your life in any area, right? So I like to say live, love, and lead from your soul. So that is what divine navigation is, right? It's being able to follow not just the um, coping mechanism, survival strategy, training and trauma induced personality preferences to navigate life, but instead kind of return to that original operating system where the soul dictated, indicated upon its plan to arrive here, these are the energetic qualities that I am here to master. This is what I'm going to express and experience, and using all of that information to navigate any and every area of your life.
That's perfect. So that's a nice, good umbrella of what um, the idea of divine navigation. But I also said the word coordinates, and that's a lot more specific. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you could share just an overall idea of what divine
Yeah.
coordinates may be to give us an idea of the map.
Yeah, and how they work together.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
So your divine coordinates are the specific energetic qualities that make up the frequency of your soul. We like to think of it as the map of your soul. So, and this is a great dialogue to be having about purpose. So I'll put a pin in that for the deeper part of the conversation. So, the identification of one's divine coordinates is like the map of your soul. Okay, here is what it is that my soul is up to. It is your spiritual curriculum or lesson plan, if you will, and it's also your gifts. Shorthand, I call it your treasure and your trap because all of your patterns, all of the growth edges are in there, and all of your potential and becoming is in there as well. So, with the identification of your coordinates, we like to say you have your map, but knowing them isn't going to change your life. Using them, getting them to work is going to. So, they've been there since the inception of your soul. They don't come into being the day we identify them. They came with you. They can't disappear, but they can get covered up. And we can't identify them for ourselves because it's sort of like trying to look at the tip of your nose without a mirror. Like, pretty ineffective. We know it's there, we get a little bit of an idea, but we're not getting the full view. And who we know ourselves to be is really always in the way of that.
Mm.
So We're going to activate the compass. Once you have your map, then you're going to activate your compass. That means you've learned how the technology works. It's a spiritual technology. It works the same for everyone every time, no exceptions. The nuance is, what are your specific divine coordinates? And now that you have your map and your compass is activated, now you can navigate your life. So they work together.
And again, this is a very unique process. So a lot of people might hear that and be thinking of some of the other maps that they know. Many of them are related to astrology.
Yes.
Is not.
Nothing to do with astrology. I do get that question quite a bit. Not astrology, not numerology. It is no other modality. This was gifted to me from the heavens. At the time of this recording, it's just like less than 2 weeks away from 14 years ago. So I've been living and breathing this technology for almost a decade and a half, and it is completely unique. And I will say, like, in the grandest scheme, we're all going the same direction, right? Like, these are all different ways for you to find your way home. Like, the what level of access you get to yourself through a specific modality or technology, like, use that one. I told, like, it's fine. I just want you to have contact with your soul. I just want you to have access to your soul. And this is the one that has worked for me and thousands of people that I have had the privilege of working with. And most everyone, and by the way, the people who are attracted us are the people who've done the most work. Newbies are
Mhm.
not drawn to us. They're just not ready for the level of conversation that we have. And that's
Yeah.
not exclusionary. It's just like, that's what we've seen. But they all,
Self-selecting.
yeah, completely self-selecting.
Right.
Um, but hands down, the thing that almost everybody says is, this is the thing that made everything else make sense. Now there's a practical application for who I know myself to be, and I can actually bring it to life in my life.
And it's very interesting because our conversation is really around legacy, and I want to see how this ties into legacy. And I see you living that because this is your legacy, and part of that is that you actually are certifying. So you're not the only one now that has this process. You've got your certified facilitators, and you're being able to create that. But how do you see the tool itself and the people who get to identify their coordinates? How does that help them in leaving their legacy?
Mm, what a great question. So I think the first piece to query into is the word legacy, right? Because it's so, immediately we say legacy and we tend to think big, grandiose, you know, Gandhi and Martin Luther King, and right. And legacy and purpose around here are not judged based on size. Every single person that arrives here on this planet came for a specific purpose, to hold a specific energetic frequency for everyone else. The legacy we leave is, to what degree did we express and share that, and the people who remember that. And that can be your family, right? Like, again, it doesn't have to be on a world stage to have value and merit and purpose and value, right? To have the legacy. And so frequently we are fixated on what someone else will judge as valuable, right? Or the flashiness of it. And I remember actually one of my first coaching clients ever, and it shocked me when he asked me to be his coach at an event that I was, my very first 10-minute stage appearance. And literally I got 10 minutes warning of like, hey, you're opening the next segment. And then after I got off stage, I don't know what the heck I said, and this was pre-divine coordinates. This gentleman asked me to be his coach, and he was executive vice president for a Fortune 50 company that you would know the name of if I said it. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I was very much intimidated. And he was so fixated on leaving a legacy, right? And how his job didn't do that, and what was the legacy he wanted to leave. And finally, what broke it up open for him is, I asked, well, what if you stopped worrying about leaving a legacy and just be the man that would do the things that would leave a legacy? And I
Oh,
think when we bring it down to life, our daily life, like, we so frequently miss out on what's here for what we want to be here. And guess what? It's what's here that gets us to there. And then, by the way, when we get there, we're only here again. So stay here and stay present to who am I being today? How am I showing up? For me, for us, that's about being in alignment with your soul, not what the personality might want, but really what your soul has in store for you, what your soul has meant for you.
I love that. You were talking before about how legacy is what's left behind from living your purpose, and we're talking about leading with purpose. So you have a very unique definition around mission. And so, how do purpose and mission relate, and how do
Hmm.
you specifically define mission?
Yeah. Oh, I love your questions. These are such great questions. So first of all, purpose, when we think about purpose, it most commonly gets relegated to what we do and for who, right? It's about out there. And everything in divine navigation is about removing the external referencing and becoming internally sourced. So that's the first thing we do. We internally source our purpose. We realize our purpose is to embody our soul, specifically our soul frequency. So you may not be vibrating at that right now, but it's still your purpose. And so we make a distinction between purpose and calling. So your purpose does not change ever because you have one soul. One soul. I don't care if you think we live one lifetime or multiple lifetimes. We've got one soul. It's doing one job. It's got the same purpose. Our level of expression and elevating that level of expression of those energetic qualities, we call them your divine coordinates. That's your purpose. So your purpose is a state of being. It's not a project. It's not a mission. It's definitely not your business. You can
Mm.
fulfill your purpose in the very next room you walk into, and I invite you to.
So you're saying we all have the same purpose, which is to embody our soul's message,
Yes, our soul's
That's
frequency.
our soul's frequency. So
Yeah.
that's the core message. We all have the same.
All have the same purpose. Yep.
What changes is the mission.
Well, yeah. So then getting to the next part of your question. So I'm going to insert another piece, calling, right? So your purpose doesn't change, but your calling can. A
Mm.
calling is how you are called to express that purpose at any given moment. And so that can evolve over time. I was just having a chat with somebody the other day and I shared I went to fashion college and they're like, "What?" "Oh yeah, and I sold windows for custom homes." "What?" I go, "I know, a super straight line, but it's actually a spiral. It could be considered a crooked line, but it's actually a spiral because each time I was expressing my divine coordinates at a new level. And now I get to talk to souls all day. Like, how lucky am I? So, I'm not going to say I'm not going to ever have another calling, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing this for quite some time still, right?
Mm.
So it's not likely I'm going to be called in another direction that isn't connected to what I'm already doing
Mm.
in the near future or perhaps ever. So when we translate, taking purpose and putting it into a business, if you think about corporate mission statements, they are generally pretty dry and vanilla, and they are things that they know or believe that they can achieve, right? And they're really terrible. They're really terrible when they're like, we provide the most exceptional customer service for the highest value, right? Like, there's no soul in it. Like, you can feel there's no soul in it at all.
Mm. Right, just jargon.
Yeah. And so we use mission as what's the biggest ask that you can ask, right? The most grandiose utopian view of the world that you want to live in. And you're fully aware that you cannot fulfill that in your life or on your own. That
Mm.
you might not see the fruition of that, but you're no less committed to it. And then we add a vision, which is okay. And so, based on that, what is the role and responsibility that I am willing to take on in a daily operation of my business type thing, right? So, this is what would more likely look like what people would usually call a purpose or a mission.
Love it. A great example for me, I for a long time, I tried to make a mission that I could achieve by saying my mission was to help shift human consciousness, which I could
Mm,
do very easily. I do
yep.
every day.
Right.
So I live my mission every day. But really,
Yep.
the idea is for me to elevate human consciousness from to love and above on the Hawkins scale, 500 and above, a very specific number. And
Yeah.
I don't feasibly see that happening in the next 50 years.
Right, right. If that's all you got on the planet. Yeah. And so we actually create something in the business in your soul. We create something called the purpose pyramid, which takes the information of the divine coordinates, creates that grandiose mission, the level of responsibility I'm taking on for myself or really with others, right? Of what I want to create with them that's going to fulfill on that mission. And then we break it down even further and create what I call a dedicated purpose, which is what I'm going to wake up every day and be committed to, regardless of if I'm being paid for it, right? So for me, I'm dedicated to soul alignment. And you've known me for a long time. You can see that. You see that in every single area of my work, right? But when I get into the bigger scale of the mission, it's about creating a world where every single living being is purposely on purpose, living their part of the divine plan. I can't do that by myself. And I don't think, considering the billions of people in this lifetime that it's, or in this world, that it's going to happen in my lifetime, right? In the next 50 years. But I can show up in divine navigation every day to help eliminate the epidemic of mistaken identity that people have
Mm.
by putting them into direct contact with their soul. That
Mhm.
will fulfill on creating a world where every living being is purposely on purpose.
Well, that's beautiful too, because this also leads into practical application. So anybody that's listening to this right now, for them, the same thing. Like they may not be able to live into their mission, but what is something that we can do, no matter where we are in life, to do that? Because not everybody, you're not going to be able to give everybody their coordinates, but whether they have their
Certainly.
coordinates or not,
Yep.
what is something that people can do to first identify what
Yeah.
their mission is, and then how do they move toward that?
So the first part is becoming aware of where you're operating from and paying more attention to the motivations that are behind your actions. So connection with self is a precursor to connection with soul. So the very first thing you can do is be more and more present with yourself. Find ways that work for you to get into your body, right? Like we have tools we use that we, you know, give people immediately. That my favorites, where am I, is a really confusing question, right? Because I'm like, I'm in my desk chair. But this is really a reminder to come into your body and move your awareness into your core. We use the solar plexus primarily. And then when am I? Because if we're not in the moment,
Mm.
and oh, by the way, you can't be in the moment unless you're in your body. Like a lot of people talk about being in the present, but if you're not present in your body, you're not in the present. Guaranteed. You're either thinking about something back there or you're projecting something into the future. And the only thing that creates is this very moment. So back to the legacy, you can't worry about out there. Action can only be taken here. What's the motivation behind the action, and take it to the level of energetic experience. So who do I want to experience myself as today? And so you can pick different energetic qualities and you can certainly create something with them, right? And then of course when you're called, when you're really ready to only experience what your soul meant for you, that's where something like the divine coordinates can come in.
I love it so much. And earlier you were talking about how you can live your mission as a housewife, a mom, a teacher. There's so
Your
many
purpose.
in your profession.
Yeah,
Uh, and you
not
talk about
relevant.
this on your website that it's a lot of different ways. And for me, I see my work as a path for personal growth, and that while I'm working to make an impact out in the world, it's really the work, who I'm becoming in the process,
Yeah.
that is really the big gift to the world. But
Yep.
how does that work if it's not in work? Because again, I know you have different tracks on
Mhm.
your website. Speak to me a little bit
Yeah.
about outside of business.
Yeah, so we do. We have a personal path and a business path. And on the business path, you have to start on the personal path anyway because you're a person. Right? Like it's you. Like this game is you. And along the lines of what you said, my perspective is you think you started a business to make money. If you're a business owner, it's just simply the vehicle you chose to evolve your own soul. Someone else is choosing a different lesson plan, right?
Mhm.
So, but you can do that in any area of your life. You can evolve your soul in any area of life. But I think when we relegate business to only business as an external reference, we miss out on so much of what's really there for us and available to us. So, in terms of the coordinates, every direction of the coordinates also governs a specific type of relationship. So if you have relationship challenges in your life, right? And we delineate intimate and romantic. So we don't actually talk about romantic relationships. We talk about intimate relationships because a romantic relationship hopefully is intimate. But an intimate relationship does not have to be romantic,
Right.
right? So it might actually hit more of the friend level and just you're playing romance, but it's not intimate enough to sustain, right? And because we've had the privilege of playing with your coordinates along with your lovely bride Renee, right? We know why you all were attracted to one another, right? And how you're supporting one another and coming more fully into your soul. So there's a whole matrix around relationship. Oh, by the way, family of origin, not in the relationship matrix because they may or may not fall into one of the other types of relationships. It's not a requirement. You were
Mhm.
born into the environment that needed your frequency. You didn't come for them to give you anything. You came to offer something. I know it's just a sucky thing to realize, and we get to take responsibility for becoming the source of what we need, not looking for it from somebody else. So we're taking all that information and putting into a business if someone is moving over onto the business path officially.
We just said something that goes back to a line you mentioned earlier, and it's one of my favorite Rhonda isms about, and it really applied to me. That's why probably it's one of my favorites around being internally sourced rather than externally referenced.
Mm-hmm.
You just mentioned it, but tell us a little bit more about what that means.
Yeah. So think about, we're born into the world and immediately we're like, oh, who am I in relation to all these things outside of me? Right. And we're trying to figure out what is this world and what is my place in it. And so our attention is very external and we're dropped into spheres of influence that all have spoken and unspoken codes of conduct. And we take those on in varying ways. So I refer to that as your training, right? And we also move through life and we have traumas that happen, big and small, right? Like all sizes, no judgment on the size of the trauma, something you internalized and took on, and then you're reacting to that. So when we realize that when we're living in an externally referenced way, we're really living from our personality and we're saying, who am I in relation to or compared to all these things outside of myself? How do I get these things outside of myself? Trying to fill the hole where your soul belongs, right? And so we're actually most people for a majority of our lives or a certain amount of our lives are moving through as a collection of personality preferences, training, reactions to traumas. So we're saying these things are meaningful, but they're really a reaction. And it's like coping mechanisms and survival strategies. And we just got this basket we're carrying around, and this is how we're moving through life. When we instead become back to ourselves, return home, and get in alignment with our soul, understanding that we were meant to be the source of these specific energetic qualities, the world and your experience of it instantly changes, right?
Mm.
Because I'm here, I'm in my body, I'm aware of all that, but I'm not at the effect of it, right?
Mhm.
I am embodied in my soul, so I'm not being knocked around like a leaf in the wind. I am here and present to the becoming and the potential of my soul. I might not be that today, but I have a connection to it. And now I'm not taking my worth and value from anything outside.
That's beautiful. I love that distinction and definition. And as I was hearing it, I was also kind of listening with two different ears. One from the beginner who might just be new to this world, um, is just starting to do the work, and you're saying that's not typically the person who is willing to invest and commit to the depth that you offer. But what is a first step for somebody who is new? And
Yeah.
then what do you see as kind of the leading edge for the people that have been doing the work?
Hmm.
What's
Hmm.
coming up now in 2025 for us to step into?
Ooh, ooh. I love both of these questions. So for the beginner, and I mean, I don't know how many beginners you really, really, really are going to attract because you are who you are too. And even someone may feel like a beginner and not actually be a beginner. I want to make
Exactly.
that distinction, right? Because what external reference is happening there as compared to who are you a beginner, because you are way further along your consciousness path than a large portion of the planet if you are showing up here.
And
Like,
you're listening 30 minutes into this conversation, then yes,
right.
you're, you're
Like,
not
let's
beginning.
say that, right? But the first thing I've already mentioned it, right? So we have two questions in the 21-day energetic success activation experience that starts day 1 and day 2. These two things will change your life and the experience of your life. So anyone can do this, although it takes practice. So I'll actually walk you through the exercise. You've certainly done this before. So I'm assuming you're not driving. If you're driving, do this later. So close your eyes. And without trying to change anything just yet, simply notice where your awareness is. What's my awareness? The part of you that just asked that question. You can actually send your awareness anywhere in the universe. We want to bring it home. So on your next exhale, see if you can invite it into your body, specifically dropping it down into your solar plexus. And breathe into that space. And this might take some effort, practice, because there's a lot of other stuff that can get kind of clogged up in that space. It's our emotional clearinghouse. And the reason other things can move in and take up residence is because we're not there taking up the space. So I like to practice this while I'm reading a book. Yes, I read physical books because am I on the page or am I here looking at the page? It's a great practice.
Hmm.
So the key is to learn how to get here and then practice staying here, right? So once you're in this space of where am I is the question, and feel what feels different about the quality of how you're experiencing yourself in your body at this moment. I imagine there's been a change, some
Mhm.
type, right? Even me, like, look, my pace is slowed, things shift.
Same here. Like this is we were talking about a beginning kind of a step, but
But
yeah,
it's
it's
fundamental.
profound.
It's fundamental, not just beginner, right? Because it's foundational. We keep it all the way through.
Hmm.
So from here, then you can ask yourself, when am I? And you can realize how you've stopped thinking about yesterday or what you need to do later. Like it's really magical. Okay, so now before you open your eyes, pay attention. Maybe even put your hand on your solar plexus. And when you open your eyes, see how tempting it is to come out of your body. Go ahead and open your eyes when you're ready. Like you have to work to stay there, right? Like,
When you brought it up, I was like ready to leap out before
I
you
know,
even said it.
isn't that crazy? Like instantly we're like, oh, okay, I can come out again. No, like move through the world from here. Because from here you can sense so much more and you can feel what's in alignment and what's not. And you can realize what your motivations are and the energy behind your actions. And you can make sure that you have a level, one of your favorite words, of discernment in those things. And we aren't just running around doing what we think we're supposed to do or what we have to do to get what it is we think is finally going to give us the satisfaction our soul is craving. Hate to break it to you. Like I said earlier, nothing is going to fill the hole where your soul belongs. And it is only the satisfaction of experiencing the fulfillment of an energetic experience that is ever going to satisfy your soul. Even when you think there's a thing that you want, there's actually an energetic experience under it, that what you're truly craving, and you don't need that thing to have the experience.
Mm, absolute gold. And for again, anybody who was listening to that, if there was some resistance, because I know the first times I've done this exercise, I didn't even know where my mind was. It was all over the place. And
Yeah.
this time, because of knowing the exercise, I knew that my attention was on you and on my audience, but my audience was on future because they're not listening to this live. And so, again, I wasn't now. I
That's
was
so
already
great.
thinking.
Yeah, I mean, and Zoom is a really big deal. So, actually when I do private coaching sessions, I don't do them on camera. We use Zoom, but I don't do them on camera. And some people have gotten upset with me about that, but most begin to understand once they do this practice, I don't want the temptation to be over in your space. If I'm
Mhm,
looking at you, I'm more tempted to move over into your space. And in order to serve the person at the highest level, why would I put that in the way of me being able to serve them at the highest level? Why would I want to expend the effort to try to stay with me while I'm being with them? If I don't look at the camera, I mean, literally, like, I set it up, I put the laptop to the side, right? I'm like not even focused there. I'm focused on them from another place. So, learning how to hold this with our eyes open is a further practice, right? So, as I said, one of my favorite things to do is, while I'm reading a book, am I on the page or am I in my body looking at the page? Right? And it's fascinating to feel like it can take some time. You can feel like the ping pong. And then you take it further, and maybe not even on Zoom, but in person, when another person is in your space, virtually or otherwise, how often do you leave yourself to be with them
mm,
versus being with yourself with them?
mm. It reminds me of the Ram Dass quote, "Be here now." Those three words, and very much
Yeah,
in line with our conversation.
completely. Yeah, be who you be in alignment with that, be here and be now.
Present. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's perfect.
Mhm.
How many times have we heard that whole new perspective? I love it.
Absolutely. And again, this is foundational. So really, everything that you just shared works wherever you are on
Yeah.
your path.
Yes.
And again, that it all relates to the conversation about leading with purpose. And you talked before about how it's not about thinking ahead to what is the legacy you're going to leave behind, which is a really weird time dynamic about thinking ahead to what people will think back on you about. Instead, it's just about how we live our legacy today. So I'm wondering if you want to, what are your final words to share with our audience on that?
Well, using what we just experienced, and then also considering, pre having your divine coordinates identified, like before you pick up that phone, before you write or send that email, right? Every action has an energy behind it. And we've been taught that the action is what produces the results. And that's clearly not true, because we've seen plenty of people take all the same steps and get wildly different results. So it's the energy behind the action, the alignment of that energy, most specifically, that is actually doing the creating. So even if you just start with, how do I want to experience myself in this interaction? Right? What do I want to send in this? What energy do I want to send in this email? I actually tell my team, if you're stressed or overwhelmed or distracted, do not send my emails. Do
Mm,
not send my emails. You wait until you are in a good position. Luckily, all my team has their divine coordinates. So it's like, invoke your coordinates and you get in a good spot, and then you can send my email. Right? And we have amazingly high open rates, very engaged subscribers. And it's energetic. It's not just the action, it's the energetics.
that's such a great practice. Like thinking about anytime somebody triggers you, if you ever feel triggered about rather than responding to being able to see like who do you want to be in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
How do I want to experience myself, right? And then there's another Rondaism, as you called it, that I'll remind you of, is like, personalities get triggered. Souls don't get triggered. Souls
Mm,
do not get triggered. Personalities do. Souls don't have big, wide sweeping opinions. Souls know it's about our own individualized experience and interfacing with other people to remind us who we are. Personality is all the judgment and the lack and the comparison and the competition and the none of that's who you are. It's
That is
just
so
being.
so much goodness in all of this. And hopefully, if you are triggered or you have responses to that, we would love to see that. Please post in the comments below. We'll make sure to respond to you as well. I'd love to hear how this lands with you. Rhonda, for anybody who's listening and would like to take the next step, I'll put the links down below, but just share with us how people can find you.
Yeah, I mean, our main website is absolutely the best way. Plenty, it's a wonderful resource. There's a library, a bookstore there with lots of value rich articles and some other resources. So you can find under guidance all kinds of articles, and under resources all kinds of free resources. And a couple of times a year we have public events, some complimentary, and so there's many ways that we can serve you right where you are.
You want to say that URL?
Yes, sorry. Divinenavigation.com. Yeah, divinenavigation.com is where you can find us.
Awesome. So divinenavigation.com will be again in the show notes. I am grateful to have you in my life. I feel so aligned, and it's been wonderful to know my coordinates and how they play into our live events, my relationship with Renee, and my other partnerships. It's just been a game changer, and having someone there shining their light with me on the path has been an inspiration, motivation. So thank you for everything you've done for me and for all the people that you serve.
It's been a privilege and an honor, and gosh, getting to have a front row seat and witnessing you becoming more and more who you were meant to be. Yeah, it's been, yeah. And we've been friends for 10 years now.
Amazing.
I love that.
Indeed. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And I look forward to continuing our leadership journey together. For everyone out there listening, again, please make sure to listen again to that beautiful meditation, if it were. It was just a really powerful exercise, and be able to listen to it again and again. And
Hmm.
it's a foundational piece, no matter where you are on your journey.
Yeah, and know that it will take some practice. You're not going to do it perfectly, probably from the get-go, and that's okay. We go for consistency, not constancy. Perfection is going to get in your way.
And you'll find that you can really tweak it in and fine tune it. But I've found the easiest is to start with the most noticeable. When I'm the most triggered,
Oh,
I'm like, oh, okay, take a
yeah.
breath.
Yes,
Who
yes,
do I want to, how do I want to experience myself right now?
and please also catch yourself doing something well. Right?
Ah,
Like, so when people are practicing with this, right? So we have you do day 1 and day 2 for all 21 days, right? Like, this is because it takes time to get good at this. And I often joke the other 19 days are just so I can get you to practice day 1 and day 2 for 3 weeks, right? Like, it's all other good stuff, but like, just do this and you're going to see like so much change in your experience of the world. So it, as you do it, ask yourself throughout the day, eventually you're going to catch yourself. You'll be like, I'm already there. Oh my gosh. Right. So catch yourself doing it well too.
that's great. Catch yourself doing well and celebrate it.
Hmm.
Acknowledge it. Beautiful. Acknowledgement is a big one for me.
Oh, recognition specifically.
Well, Rhonda, again, thank you. Love you. Appreciate you. Look forward to talking to you again real soon. And for all of you out there, please comment below and we'll follow up.
See you soon.
Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Leading with Purpose. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to lead with purpose and make a meaningful impact. If you're ready to discover where you stand on your leadership journey, I invite you to take the Soulful Leadership Assessment. It's a powerful tool to help you align with your leadership style and your true purpose.